Good morning, Profit First entrepreneurs. Good morning. My name is Susanne Mariga. I am the Chief Accountant and Chief Profit Advisor here at Mariga CPA. I love spending time with you guys, and there's a topic today that we are going to cover that a lot of entrepreneurs often ask me about. But before I begin, I want to ask who's online with me. When you are able to join the live stream, please go ahead and put your name as well as where you're from in our live stream so that I will know who you are and where you're from. Today, we are trying something completely different. Today, we're actually streaming from a brand new software. For me to see your comments, I am going to need you to give StreamYard permission to allow me to see you in the comments. So as you join, please see the notes at the top. It should give you information of how to give StreamYard permission for me to see your comments so that I know that you are with me so that we can participate together today. So hi, Rachel. Thanks for joining us today. It's really great to see you. So if you can go ahead and put your name in the chat and where you're from, that'd be great so that we can go ahead and just know that you're here, that you're joining us. But before I begin, for those of you who are new to our group, welcome. We often have trainings that we cover various different entrepreneur topics right here in our private Facebook group. And for those of you who are watching us first time here, and if you have not registered already, please go ahead and register for our Profit First Masterclass group. This is where we host all of our private trainings. You can just go to facebook.com, and if you do a search for Profit First with Susanne Mariga, you will see me and you will be able to join us in our live session. So welcome to our group. We look forward to meeting you. As you join us, please introduce yourself as well as where you're from. We definitely want to get to know you a little bit better. Just some announcements. We are having a Profit First Masterclass. We are scheduling that for October. So it's been a while since we've done it. We're going to schedule this for October. And during this time together, I am going to explain to you and teach you the ins and outs of Profit First. Now, Profit First is a powerful, and I mean powerful cash management system that it is designed to give your company really what you really desire, right? And what Profit First does is we focus on your end goal. We focus on the end goal, what the end outcome is, and we help you achieve that. And unlike traditional accounting, where we focus on revenues and expenses, and Profit First, we actually focus on the bottom line, right? We focus on the bottom line, and we teach our entrepreneurs to take their profit first. And we have an entire system of how we do this, and we're going to show you how to do that in our Profit First Masterclass. So please go ahead and sign up for our Profit First Masterclass. If you go to facebook.com, you'll be able to join us there and enroll. And if you're already in our group, let us know that you are interested in attending the class, and we will get that workbook over to you so that you'll be able to take that when we have that here in October. So today we're going to cover a topic that many entrepreneurs have. Many entrepreneurs have this question, and the question is, how do you increase business revenue? And I'll be honest with you, I always find it an extremely interesting question because when I meet entrepreneurs, a lot of times what I do is I find that they focus on their top line revenue. They focus on how do I get customers? How do I get as many customers as possible? And what happens is, they're focusing on revenue, but it's really the bottom line that matters. It's really the bottom line that counts, right? It's how much do you bring home? What is your return on investment, right? What do you have to show for all of the hard work that you are doing at the end of the day, right? And for me, I remember when I first started my business. I started my business about 12 years ago, and I was going to this networking event in downtown Houston. And ironically, at the time, I was in the elevator, and I was in this elevator and I had this opportunity to give my elevator pitch. And you guys remember the elevator pitch, right? It's that 1-minute summary that you get to do to a completely different or a stranger that you've never met before. And in this elevator pitch, you have to summarize exactly what you do very succinctly. And you have to tell them how you can serve this customer. How can you benefit them? Because you're never, ever going to get the opportunity to do that again. And for many people that are networking, it becomes this contest. It becomes this contest of how fast can you talk? And the sad part is when people are giving their elevator pitches, they're so focused on what they have to say that they never stop to listen to what the other person is telling them. And as a result, what happens is a connection is never made. And the interaction literally goes nowhere. And having been a new business 12 years ago, this was an extremely scary event for me. This was extremely scary because as a new business, I hated sales, right? I hated sales. And frankly, I hated being in a room full of strangers. And frankly, the situation of having to give an elevator pitch, having to give it to strangers, right, was extremely intimidating. And I don't know how many of you guys have ever been in that situation, but so here I was 12 years ago, just started my business, and I was in this elevator, and I was in this elevator with a complete stranger who was wearing a business suit. And I remember finally mustering up the courage to speak to the stranger. And I was applying my networking 101 training, right? I was applying my networking training 101. And I asked this stranger, what exactly do you do? Now, this stranger in his elevator was extremely excited to see me, and he was extremely excited to share what he did for a living, right? Because he was wanting to make a sale, right? He was wanting to make a sale. And the stranger explained to me, he goes, he was a business owner. He had been doing it for a while. He had several large government contracts. He had many, many employees. In fact, he had revenue that exceeded over $1 million. So this was a 7-figure business. And actually, he was a multi-7-figure business. And it's interesting because I always find it's interesting what people will tell you if you just be quiet and listen. And as this man spoke, as he told me about his business, I felt smaller, smaller, and smaller. You see, my accounting business was brand new at the time. It was 12 years ago. And my accounting business was very new at the time. It was small. It was tiny. And at the time, to be honest with you, it was just me. And when he finally got around to asking me, after he explained everything that he did, when he finally got around to asking me exactly what I did, I just said, I just own an accounting firm, is what I told him. And when that elevator bell went off, I felt an immediate sense of relief. Ironically, life has a way of spinning around. And later on, I became this gentleman's accountant. And what I learned from working with this gentleman, working with other business owners too, that were 7-figure business owners, was that the average, when you see an average $1 million business, really what their average take home is about $50,000 in profit. It ranged from $50,000 to $100,000 is what the average was in terms of what these $1 million businesses were earning. And it was quite disappointing, right? Because you would think, making $1 million, you would have a whole lot more to show for, but his case was not alone. Many business owners were in that same situation. And entrepreneurs, when you experience a proportion of revenue and sales versus profit, and you have a proportion that is that out of whack, when you have high revenue but very low profit, what that means is that you are trading margins for value. That's what that means. Hi, Dee, it's great to see you. You're trading margins for value. It's what's happening when you have ratios that are that. It's really great to see you too. When you have high sales, low profitability, you're trading margins for value. And this means that what's happening here is that you're probably lowering your price. You're probably basing your price based upon the competition. You're hustling to get sales. And I'll tell you this, entrepreneurs, you're going to work 10 times harder just to achieve the same bottom line than if you just charge a fair price, right? You're going to work 10 times harder to achieve the same price or the same bottom line than if you just charge a fair price. And so entrepreneurs, what I'm saying is the end goal matters. The end goal matters. The profit is more important than the revenue. Okay. Write this down. The profit is more important than revenue. So let's talk about our question here today. And I want you to write this down because I have 3 points that I want to cover on how to increase revenue. 3 points. And today we're just going to cover 3. Maybe some other day we'll have another training, but we're going to cover 3 points that if you get down packed, you will have success. Hi, Mylan. It's great to see you. Welcome back. So point number one, do you have a demand for your product or services? I can't tell you how many times I have met entrepreneurs and they have huge dreams. I mean, big dreams. They dream of impacting the world. They dream of changing their family lives. And when I ask them, what are they doing? I find that their businesses they're in industries that are highly competitive and sometimes even overly saturated fields. Okay. That's what I find with a lot of entrepreneurs when I meet them. And I'll give you an example. I live in Houston, Texas, and I have a favorite breakfast place that I go to. I'm not going to say the name because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but I have a favorite breakfast place that I love. And the food is fabulous. The food is off the wall. It is fabulous, right? And it's absolutely delicious, this food. And I'm not the only one that thinks this. This restaurant often has lines that wraps around the building, right? And while you wait in line, right, vendors take advantage of this opportunity and they approach you and they're selling all sorts of beautiful handmade or inexpensively purchased jewelry, right? Or token items, right? Because they're taking advantage of this long line. You've obviously got money to spend and they want to make a sale. And while it's absolutely wonderful to have a business that you love, while it's absolutely wonderful to do that, and we also have businesses that we love, some industries are so competitive and so saturated. Hey, Daniel, it's good to see you. Some industries are so competitive and so saturated that it's extremely difficult to differentiate yourself from your competition. And as a result, because they're so saturated, what happens is that it's very difficult to charge a price that'll produce a profit that will allow you to make a decent living without working excessively to make that happen. And so, my question for you, entrepreneurs, thank you, Daniel. And so, my question is for entrepreneurs is, are you in a business that has a demand? Are you in a business that has a demand? Do people want your product? Are you meeting a need with your product or services? And if you're unable to differentiate yourself or you have no real demand for your product or services, it's going to be an upward battle to accumulate revenue, right? It's going to be an upward battle to accumulate revenue. Exactly, Daniel. Exactly. Daniel says, if not, you're first, you're last. And profit first entrepreneurs constantly assess your demand for your products and services. What is the demand for your products and services? How are you meeting the needs of your customers? Are you currently filling a gap in the industry? And what can you do that only you can do that makes you special in order to meet this demand? There must be a demand for your products or services. Yes, Daniel, know your value. Exactly. So point number 2 of how to increase business revenue. Point number 2, get ready to write this down, put it in the chat, somebody write this down. Point number 2. This is what I would say. Can you command margins for your products or services that are worth the investment, not only in your money, but your time? And I'm going to argue that your time is actually more important than your money because you can always make more money. You can always change what you do, but you will never get back that opportunity that you lost because of the time that you lost, right? You will never get that back. And as I mentioned previously in my example of the man in the elevator, he had built a large $1 million business, actually multi-million-dollar business. And he had contracts with people and customers that we would dream of having, right? That most people would dream of having. But the problem was he was so focused on making a sale. He was so focused on creating a book of business that in reality, he was working himself to death and he had absolutely nothing to show for it. When you're bidding your contracts, are you the lowest cost provider? Are you the lowest cost provider? Are you the default vendor because nobody else will do it for free? Are you so caught up in making a sale that you've not actually sat down algebraically, and I mean algebraically, grab that math, go back to junior high algebra, okay? Have you not sat down and algebraically figured out how many sales exactly do you need to make to actually break even in what you're doing? And how many sales do you need to make in order to make a profit that would exceed what you would actually make if you just worked a job? How much profit do you need to make that would exceed how much you would need to make if you just worked a job, right? Because that's how you're going to make your business worth it. You can always do it for somebody else. That's how you're going to make it, is that you're going to earn enough more than what you would earn at a job, right? How many sales do you need to make to live the lifestyle that you really want to do? Now, the next question is this number actually achievable? Is this number actually achievable? You'd be surprised how many business owners I meet every day who have never sat down and done the math. Profit first entrepreneurs, do the math. Do the math. Can you earn enough to make a living? Can you sell enough to actually make a living? Is there enough demand to actually make a living? Are the margins adequate to provide you with an attainable sales goal that allows you to make a living? And I've seen people purchase items like inventory, especially in the food industry where you've got spoilage, where you have to write things off because food expires, right? And or they're in the business where they're just in the wrong industry, right? They're not selling products that actually have a demand. And so they have excess inventory that they can't sell. And as a result, what happens in these industries is that they produce these negative margins, right? Now, negative margins means that your cost of goods sold exceeds the revenue that you're going to make, right? Because of spoilage, usually that's what happens, or you're just selling the wrong product. That's what happens that creates that negative gross margin, right? And so what happens is when you have negative gross margin, that just yields negative gross margins, right? You cannot create a positive outcome by compounding negative margins. If you have negative margins plus negative margins, no matter how much you sell, you will always have a negative result. Okay. So profit first entrepreneurs, know your margins. Know your margins. Point number three, write this down in the chat. Point number three. All right. Point number three, write this down. In order to increase revenue, you must have systems in place to achieve consistent sales. You must have systems in place to achieve consistent sales. And I remember when I first started my business, I was so excited, like so many entrepreneurs. I was so excited. And what I did was, the first thing I did was I got a company website. How many of you guys, first thing you did was get a piece of real estate online, a website, right? And I was so excited. And that meant that I was finally in business. And I optimized it for SEO, and I used a whole lot of words, and I sat and I thought that business would just come, right? I thought that business would just come. And I waited and I waited and I waited for the phone to ring. And sometimes the phone did ring, but for all the waiting that I was doing, it definitely wasn't worth my time waiting by the phone, right? And I think that a lot of businesses think the same way. They think that if I just put out a website, that business will come, right? They think that if I put out a website, business will come. But I have some news for you, Profit First Entrepreneur. I have some news for you. If you don't let the world know about you, if you don't let the world know about you, the world won't find you. If you don't let the world know about you, the world won't find you. Exactly, Daniel. Find a need and solve it. Business owners, you have to tell the world that you're spectacular. You have an amazing product or service. You are a small business and you're doing this because you love what you do and you're here to serve. And you must constantly remind the world that you are here to serve. You have to constantly remind them. What are you doing to tell the world that you're here to serve? Do you foster a sales team? Are you serving in your community? Do you have a presence and a following? How are you telling the world that you are here to serve? Entrepreneurs, I hope that today was extremely helpful for you. I truly appreciate the time that we've taken today together. And I truly appreciate the opportunity to serve you. And definitely, if you're watching this for the first time, definitely make sure that you subscribe to our group. And until next time, may the profits be with you. Thank you very much. Goodbye.